oh, sure. Actually, I was thinking I had to read the preamble and I don't.
Yeah, I don't think so.
So move we open the subcommittee meeting for the planning board subcommittee on the MBTA. Zoning.
Yep. Second. Motion second, any discussion, roll call vote, Mr. Williams. Aye.
You could just do it by raising hands because there's no video.
You get a routine by the way.
Yeah. If you mess me up by raising hand, I'll never come back.
Oh, don't give us that little tidbit.
I was just trying to reduce the time that we have to be together, that's all.
Next Zoom meeting,
When I read-
forget to do that.
Sometimes when I read the preamble, I wanna take a vote on the names after I read them, because I've never heard that before. Well, shall we, update from the meeting with the state today?
Yes.
Please. Rachel. Chris Gallo listened in, didn't have much to comment on. Said everything we would raise, answered any questions he had. We had Nathan and a different Rachel spelled differently in the state, so. We started out just kind of talking, I wanted to get clarity from them on the town center and the 50 acres and, that 8 units per acre, and if you do this, I was just trying to really understand why they would say, yeah, you need another 50 acres someplace else if you did the reduction with mixed use development, all that stuff. They did indicate that you can get creative with the other 50 acres and possibly include some wetlands in that.
The other 25 acres?
No, because if you do the mixed use and you want the reduction.
Oh, I got it.
You need to go find 50.
Okay, got it. All right.
And they said, well, we can get creative and use some wetlands and that 50 acres, so it may not be 50 acres that you ultimately need, but it doesn't, I don't think it changes anything about that town center.
What state office were those people from?
EOHLC?
Yes.
Okay, good.
You wanna know what that means?
I don't care. I know they're the ones who are in charge.
I
I just didn't want to get an opinion from someone who wasn't the designated authority and then run with it. So I just, that's who I expected it to be. Okay, great.
So I don't think it changes anything around how we use town center. Overlay on part of a parcel, the answer to that is yes. Okay. So we can carve out X number of acres, call it the overlay district out of any parcel and then move on. And if I say anything wrong, Rachel, please correct. I asked again about the Wrentham Development Center just because I wanted to understand why we have all this acreage and we can't use it, and basically didn't say anything other than, well, you can go appeal it, but it's not part of it.
I can say, if I may, I can provide a little bit of, from past experience of having a state-owned property, a state school, and taking it out of state ownership. It took many years. It was started long before I started in Grafton, and it was just finalized when I was in Grafton. And it's an active legislature that it has to come out of, and then it has to have some certain regulations around it. Usually, I think maybe it was DCAM that sort of handled that process, but it is a very long process. It's not just something that they do very often. Just as a personal experience, it's doable, but it takes years to do.
Good to know. As it relates to your question, I think, or our question, but thanks for reminding me, can you make the developer build a road, get to a parcel to then call it an overlay? The answer is no. It's gotta be an existing public road, paper street that doesn't exist. Can we square this? That was in effect before the zoning bylaws came into effect? Paper
Correct.
street before that?
So that's
He
the
said
answer.
3, but I only got, 2 of them seem like the same. Were there?
So like a town accepted way, a way that was shown on a plan prior to subdivision approval, or just the paper road that was, approved but never constructed, similar to Rhodes Drive.
So for me to be clear, that's the answer to the question about frontage and accessibility. Okay, that keeps coming up
The
in those
landlocked-
in those replies that Rachel sent us.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's gonna get rid of, site 2
yeah,
on the.
but not
south side.
necessarily
Correct,
this one,
correct.
because it has a little road up to it.
Yeah, yeah.
Whether they improve the road or not, in order to have people want to actually live there, that's kind of up to them developing it, right?
Right.
Yes, I'd like to move into a massive, complex with a driveway. It's,
That's all you get.
it's half a mile long. I think that would be a way to go.
A
What
lot
could
of-
possibly go wrong?
Yeah, they got a lot of projects coming before them for review. We did ask, what have you seen in all of the applications that you'd say, a lot of people are trying this and it doesn't work? Like, don't do this.
Great question.
Landfills, like junk, dirt, trash.
Right.
Contaminated sites, although they did say salvage yards are okay and light industrial's okay. If there's cleanup that has to be done on some of those things.
So armories would be okay.
Yeah, but not the town dump.
Right.
Right.
It's also
Where is
town,
the
it's also
town
town
dump?
owned
Next to the
property,
Beagle
so you can. Yeah.
Oh, that's
If
the
you
old
put
one.
solar panels
Okay, but that
there,
hasn't been a dump for a long
Correct,
time.
yeah, like in
Can't build
Plainville.
on it though.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good use for it.
And then they said, water resource districts, which Rachel said, well, a bunch of the town here is under a water.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Almost the whole town is.
The
part of
one
it.
good thing, again, as I mentioned, the one good thing about your town is that you get majority, all of your water, wells are located within, your town. But that also then creates, all of these, wellhead districts. So pretty much all of West Wrentham is not, because there is no well. But all of this pink shaded area, this is the basin, this is the blue line. But all of this shaded area is,
Which is where we're looking at our district.
We're looking at 140 up in the left.
140 up in the left corner, that's shaded to me.
Route 1
Yep.
up on the
So-
right corner.
Just understanding that that zone has a 15% lot impervious maximum coverage in it. And so when you go run it through the compliance model, that will be, just something you have to keep in
You
mind.
can only use 15%.
Only 15% of the lot can be impervious.
Impervious, right.
So building, driveway, sidewalks.
Wow, so that takes a lot of that lot.
Well, if you try to take all that out, now you're only talking about down by 495 and Route 1 and out in West Wrentham. Right?
So get the number of 50 acres usable, number of units, acres if you're well above 50, because so much can't be used, right?
Right,
Well, you can.
that's what it sounds like.
They understood the fact that you're gonna, if you said, I'm taking 25 acres with setbacks and sewer needs and septic systems and all that, you're probably not getting 15 units an acre, but as long as the overlay says it can have, you don't have to get there. You don't have to get to 15 units per acre. You have to show that the overlay's there, and then the constraints, the septic fields are an allowable part of the development, which doesn't.
You
Which
mean,
doesn't
making
mean
them put in a private septic is
Yeah.
allowable.
Well, it doesn't make you have to make up for that land area that they're putting the septic on.
Right, if they
So
lose an
they-
acre for.
Is this a waterway, Rachel?
No, those are the basins, so the Blackstone, Charlestown, 10 Mile, I'll turn that off. so we're
Okay.
not
No,
confused.
I'm just trying to understand. So I'm
These
just trying to
blue-
think, so the Route 1 site we had up here,
That's-
is that inside or outside of that?
I think,
Inside.
inside.
There's the pond, and we're right up here.
Trying to remember.
Find it now.
Here.
Yeah.
So it's, some of it is outside, and how much was the whole thing?
28 acres.
The
So
whole- the
it's
whole
just,
whole thing is
yeah, it's
28
just
acres.
sensitive, so it's just sensitive land, it's not excluded land.
But they can
just-
only count on 15% on that
That's within
area.
your existing zoning bylaw, so you would then have to maybe look at
Change our
changing your existing
bylaw.
zoning bylaw.
Ah,
for
right,
that.
oh, I saw that in
Because
the
anything
documents that I
15
read.
Yeah,
Yeah.
if a project wants to go 15%, more than 15% impervious within one of these zones, it's then triggers a special permit.
Right, which you can't do.
Correct.
Right.
Okay.
Or as I understand it, I don't know, you, Mike, you were there, I don't want to, put my feelings on here, or my,
That's okay.
No, it's good. So this other lot that we had was this one, right?
Yeah, the
Or
big
some
one.
portion of that
Big
one,
one
which
was
is
all in it.
also like the prime spot. But what's this area?
That's outside.
The partial overlay, right, which is on the access route to 140. What do you
that's
think about
still-
that?
Right, and that's still part of the 69 plus acres that is.
Right, but we can do a part of the lot.
Yeah. So we could do that. That's,
So
that's the 25, if that's 25 acres outside.
Well,
And then
even
we-
if, let's say we did 30, but on those 5 acres, it was down to 15% impervious, it would still probably work, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So can you repeat what you said about what they said on the sensitive areas?
oh no, I'm just saying that the watershed protection overlay is considered a sensitive area. It's not an excluded area,
Right.
so I'm not, if you pick a spot here, you know, whatever. It's not, if your site is wholly within the aquifer, what is this called?
Protection.
It's called the Aquifer Protection District. It doesn't mean you can't use it, just understand that 15% of this can be impervious.
The rest of it.
And then it triggers a special permit within your existing bylaw. So you will have to change your existing bylaw to not require the special permit for these types of uses.
That's what you see over and over again in those documents that she sent us from 30 different towns, right? It's like, if this triggers this, you're gonna need to change your bylaw before you vote this as your district. Basically, warrant 1 has to be, change the bylaw,
Change the
warrant 2
bylaw,
can be
and
MBTA,
then
but you know,
warrant
you
one.
can do it the same night, but you have to do it before.
Well, it would be only for these uses, you know, that could be sort of the caveat in there. It wouldn't be any use.
Okay, that was gonna be my question. Can we modify the bylaw to get rid of that 15% only in the MBTA overlay?
Yeah.
Correct.
We can,
Okay,
okay,
it's our bylaw.
okay.
And
Alright,
we're
but-
only trying to solve that one problem, so we
It's our
can make
bylaw,
that
but the state
change.
still has to
Right,
approve all
I
our
don't think I'd
bylaws.
wanna change the underlying bylaw to allow more than that, right? That's sensitive area, we put the 15% in for a reason.
You don't change, well, agreed, unless that's really the best spot for us to have these things. And then what Chuck and I are suggesting is, you only change the bylaw to say, if you're building an MBTA, yada, 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 you do not need a special permit based on the 15% impervious thing, or whatever.
But they'd have to stay within the 15%.
You can't trigger a special permit on these things, they have to be able to be built as of right,
What I'm hearing
so
is,
whatever it takes, excuse me.
they're still restricted to 15%, but they don't need a special permit to comply
Yeah,
with it.
that's what I'm
Yeah,
hearing,
to have a more than that, you know?
Right.
but they're not, then, we don't have to grant them more than that.
It's not like it's not a special permit, you must grant.
Right.
Does that mean
Right.
they can do 100% impervious if eliminate the special permit?
I mean, if that's what your bylaw is, if that's what your overlay zone is calling for, is 100% impervious, you're gonna
Yeah.
factor in some setbacks, requirements and some open space requirements within your overlay zone too, you know, as well.
I'm confused.
So it sounds like we'd have to do some calculation and say, if they, let's say we put the whole 25 acres in a zone such as this, which is the zone we're considering in the B1 down there, right? On Franklin Street.
Yep.
Right now, because of the zoning bylaw we have, and that's a protected area, they could only put 15% impervious. Or they would have to get a special permit, but we cannot require them to get a special permit to build this.
So why don't we just say no more than 15%? We just leave it at,
They can't build 750 as of right, is that?
Because then you're killing yourself on your usable land area within the parcel and your density, correct?
Mhm.
So so if you say you can't do more than 15% impervious,
We have a 30-story building.
Now you, right, now you've got, now you, right.
So
Now
it's,
you're-
you put the overlay there, now it's negating the overlay because you've got this high restriction.
Right, exactly.
But
we
we
could-
wouldn't wanna remove that on the underlying district, because we still want that sensitive area protected, right?
Well, what you could say is if you're building the MBAT community, then that restriction doesn't apply to you, or this different restriction applies to you, which then that's the work we'd have to do, the math we'd have to do and say, you can only get to 60% impervious coverage. Because you got setbacks and you've got, different things you can have, I don't know, grass driveways or whatever we could do. But the point is, they can still get to building the half of the housing that goes on that lot, and only on that lot, because we're not changing the zoning for everybody. We're adding a caveat in the zoning bylaw for this use and this use only. Because we can't make them get a special permit in order to build this thing. That's what we gotta avoid.
I have a question. Is the aquifer protection a direct requirement for the state in order to protect aquifers? Can we even monkey around with 15%? Almost like that's a dictate already.
I wanna say we looked into this on the downtown property, so I'd have to refresh my memory on it. But I believe having it is required. I think the impervious, the percentage, you might be able to change. I'm sure that we're not the only towns that have aquifer protection or watershed protection district. So that is something that I can, also research to see how they change their zoning.
I was saying maybe my do is, if it's worth it, 15% impervious, require recharging on site. So in other words, you gotta get the water in the ground, and that's the issue. The question, how can you make that done?
already
without having a
require it.
And
special
that's,
permit?
and that's essentially if, the special permit is, you can go above the 15% with a special permit, so long as you provide evidence that you are adequately recharging that system, which our stormwater bylaw and regulations right now also pretty much,
Does that.
make sure that they have to do, and that's in your general bylaw.
It's
as well.
interesting to me because if that is wholly, if the lot we choose is wholly inside that district, which means everything all along the edges of it is in that district, and the water's running off of that property onto all the next door properties, which are also in that district, isn't the water getting into our aquifer? I mean,
By
The
building,
problem is the rate of discharge. If it goes too fast, it gets in the stream, it goes away from the town. But if it goes in the ground, now it gets in the aquifer, we can use it for our wells.
oh, okay,
So you
thank
wanna
you. That's the
maintain it.
distinction I was
Yeah.
missing.
but also by law, you have to contain the water that lands on your site. You
Right.
can't disperse it to somebody else, that is
Yeah,
illegal.
you can't direct stormwater on.
To
But
somebody
if
else's
they had some kind of, like, I think because of my home inspector experience, I think like a French drain system around the edge of the basement, right? If you had some kind of catch system around the edges of your property and all that went into something that slowly allowed it to seep into the ground, that would be okay,
We
right?
can require, any stormwater that comes off of buildings to go into some kind of a
Recharge system.
recharge system.
All like that.
Rachel, outside of the aquifer protection district, what, do we have a restriction on impervious coverage?
Yeah, it depends on which zone. I mean, you have a lot coverage in each of your zoning districts, you do have a maximum lot coverage.
So depending on what zone we put it, we could write the overlay to allow it to be the same impervious as you
underlay.
have in the rest of that particular.
Yep.
So if it's R43, whatever, but just for that overlay.
Right. Now,
So
did
you're losing a little bit of the protection, but it's not outside of what we normally allow in an area that's not.
That's what we're talking about. Start, when we define the sites, start with the underlying zoning assumptions for now.
Yes.
And then we can look at it and say, that makes sense, it doesn't make sense for the overlay.
It seems to me we recently upped the coverable land percentage in our business districts because fewer people need to go drive to the site and park. Right, when, with the new normal after COVID and everything, we had some kind of thing, maybe it was just our commercial, but I remember like, maybe up and down Route 1, when we were talking about that, when we did those different changes, there was something about, people were saying, you got setbacks and, you know,
Oh, yes.
that you can't possibly put the parking, you know, you want us to put all this parking that nobody's ever gonna use anymore, and I thought we pulled back on some of that, some of those coverage percentages, raised them, meaning raised them,
Mhm.
right? So
Yes.
our business is what? Cause we're talking about a business district on Franklin Street. What's our coverage on business districts?
Depends on which ones you're
Well,
in.
it's a
but-
B1 over there, is it?
C2 on the Armitage properties, is
No,
that
no,
what you're
no,
talking
no,
about?
No, I'm talking about the Franklin Street property where we pieced together
That's an
near
R40.
the Placido.
Oh, that's a mix, it's, it is residential, R43, and then some C1
Is that
in
C1?
there, I think.
Okay.
The residential's at the back.
Let's see
backside
how
of it,
good
right?
my memory is.
Whatever that
C1.
says C1.
There you go.
Yes.
That's what we're talking about, in the
C1 and
C1, just the one you've got outlined on this little doohickey.
43.
So maybe what we could do is go through these and see what's in the water resource district.
And what's not.
I don't know if you can overlay that too, Rachel, but
Like this
Well,
one, right? So
Yeah,
that's in
I mean, your
C1.
sensitive areas are all on plans, a plan that I did provide to you guys.
right, I'm trying to compare it to the
shared.
sites we have now, if we could hone in on it.
Yeah, on the plans that
What's
I
on there?
provided you, the maps that I provided,
Oh.
originally,
Yeah, I don't have.
Oh, yeah, there, but look, she's got hash
Is
marks.
it, are the
on
hash
this.
marks the same thing?
no, that's, town property.
Oh,
Yeah.
That was sort of a different.
well, we can see it over here.
Just have
So,
here, Rachel.
all right, so
Yes.
I'll,
Yes, sir.
I have it here. I'll go
This
see
is
you
the
guys.
country we talked about.
So why don't we take it by
Carol Merrill.
page? Why don't we take like,
Yeah, page 1, right, which
yeah.
is,
140 south?
this one here is out anyway. No access.
We all agree the landlocked lot 2
Is
is
out,
out of contention.
no access.
Correct.
All right.
Gone.
This one is possible. And we have access roads, frontage.
Yeah.
And plenty of space that's not in our aquifer.
Is it, that is not in our aquifer?
This is
oh,
the
this is- oh,
aquifer
great.
hash marks.
Yep.
This is not, doesn't have it. So that one is possible from that standpoint. This one is possible, but we don't wanna do
We
it anyway.
don't, we didn't want that.
Right. Okay, next page.
Let's go up to the north side of 140, on the
Correct.
back, it's on the back side, I split them just so I could get better.
E
I gotta take
97.
note, I gotta take notes as
Good.
well.
Okay, great, great. So we were talking about much of this. Right? This was.
Yeah.
The straw poll said this.
Straw poll
Okay.
said that, and you came up with how many acres today, Rachel, on your,
25 plus acres, she said,
well,
on
That
this.
was,
I thought yours didn't come up to
Just think.
25.
This,
nope,
No, that's
that's,
mine.
that Mike did
That's
all
yours.
that, yeah.
She's got, she did a further calc on those, that plus the 140 properties in front of it. And I
Leo
thought,
provided a spreadsheet, simple
Yeah.
spreadsheet tally that I.
but I
forwarded
do
to you
remember
guys.
that when you drew this thing at the last meeting we were at, and it got up to like 27 without this little lot,
Yeah,
as I recall. So even if we add that little lot, it's something like 28 acres for this that you get sent to us, Mike.
didn't you do that calc on that total piece of property for those?
I think, yeah, I did, but it doesn't hold it in this,
No, I'm gonna
Online
try to bring it up on,
So let's just say that this whole corner, right? So this is C1 zone,
Examples.
and then our question, and it is in our overlay district, right?
yes,
Okay, all of it.
yes,
And this is, the buildable part of this is all in our overlay district.
yes.
I recently, a couple weeks ago, or sometime ago, I kind of objected to that site.
you
I
tried it.
removed my objection. See how hard it is to find things.
I drove down that industrial
We
road
actually-
today and I was looking at,
We actually discussed, we mentioned
I
that
have
you had objected, and we said, on the other hand, if there's no other way to do it, we will
And
consider it.
that's where I am.
all right,
So that was that one.
point of order.
I want
Here
to
we go. 30 Industrial Road with the front lots identified is 18.6 acres. According to Ms.
I mean,
Benson's,
all of these and
Calc
this.
chart.
All of that stuff that you did? It seemed to me like we
seems
had,
like it should be more, but
yeah. Oh, well, you haven't included lot 2 on here.
you could include lot 2. We didn't include the 40B, which we want to try to stay away from.
Yeah,
What did they say?
and what about lot 8?
We overlay it over.
I thought we had answered that one already.
Yeah, we had answered it, we can't overlay an existing thing, and they won't take the 40B away, you could also add lot
Okay.
8 if you want.
8 is the 40B,
Oh, the 8 is the 40B,
I believe.
and so is this over here.
Yeah. That, right, this
So
all.
with
this-
that lot 2, what,
Well, you could lot 2 and that one up in the corner there, 5 and 2.
yeah,
Oh,
so they
so-
can-
All right.
can you do the drawy thingy on this or
Yeah,
not?
that's what
Oh,
I'm doing right now. Oh.
Now, this
Oh,
is,
you lost your anchor.
this is not in the watershed protection district.
It is,
It is.
all of it is.
So I might ask then, if we don't spend a lot of brain power on this site for 2 reasons. We have it across the street in the pit. Yeah, we could do 25 acres there with an overlay of part of that parcel. And call it a day. 2 reasons. One, I think that one development could be a lot further out to allow us time. When I feel like, we know the developer on this
Just see
lot
what it is for 2.
likes to build.
Too late.
It's 30
So there's
right now.
32, there are 32 acres there, which is what I thought I remembered, and I get what you said, I heard what you said.
Yeah,
Okay,
You said one of the things they did not like was using landfills. Did they have any discussion about?
they said, they didn't say, we did ask, well, Rachel brought it up, she said, what about a quarry? And then I said, well, we might test the water on that one, they haven't tested it, but he said.
This is 2
hasn't been
acres,
asked.
5 is 2 acres,
I
so
think we're
30,
probably-
so 30 acres, not including number 5.
If you could
Okay,
identify
so-
the land that's not
and again,
already.
got that, so
40,
we've talked about
80
this,
feet
can we
down,
move up
around
to
it.
the top
Okay,
corner
I
of
just-
Route 1?
Yeah,
Have a lot of
That's the next one on the map,
Forest.
on these ones.
So, in this quadrant, oh, wait a minute, did we finish this?
Yeah, we did, I thought.
So we said what?
What else did you want? You said, let's not get excited about this, because it's in our overlay, and
we're
we have
adding
the
back
other one in
Okay.
the same neighborhood.
So we're
Which I
saying,
think makes a certain amount of sense, particularly where it's the gravel quarry or whatever, and we can do a portion of that lot.
So
Would you-
this 30 industrial block here, is that a yes or a no?
We're thinking no right now.
no, maybe if something else doesn't work, it feels like it could be a second place.
Okay,
But
so
I-
896
What,
Franklin Street, is that a yes or a no?
I think we said that, well, for the same reasons. It's in our C1, it's in our water overlay district, right? Is that a no?
Feels like it's more troublesome.
It was more trouble for us to put it there. I agree.
Right, the bylaw and get it
Yeah,
right.
yeah, I agree. It's more work for Rachel and nobody wants that.
So
So
we're trying to save her some effort,
Nobody wants
after we caused her grief, so.
if we have to, we will grudgingly, allow you to do more work. But
Were you gonna-
Right, I think we're.
Were you gonna say something about that corner, 140?
That's number.
No, I would rather stay away from putting it in potential commercial
Okay.
uses.
Okay, so this,
But I
is-
will make one exception to that when we get to it.
this is the next area.
Where are you
This
now?
is
You're up on
what-
Route 1.
No, yeah,
What was that?
it's 140 and one.
Route 1, okay, got it.
Okay, so some of this lot, namely the part that's on the access road to Route 1,
That's
is
technically
not
still-
in the water protection area.
That is East Street, technically.
Yes.
All the way up to.
Yes.
Foxborough Road
Yes.
goes.
How about that
I
whole
was
parcel?
emphasizing the Route 1 part.
Yeah.
So it's a total of
I
70.
mean, your school buses can get here without going on Route 1,
On Route 1, yes.
Mr. Boissy. And, right, because that was his
And-
concern.
And as the brother of the person who does all the school bus routing and scheduling and everything for the Wrentham Yeah, that would be a definite plus of not having to go on Route 1.
Okay, great. So this whole thing is 68 acres?
69 acres. If you cut
So
that
there's
up, if you get
Gotta be
25,
25
or
off of East Street.
a portion of, let's say the pit.
No, I'm saying there has to be a portion that's 25, and there's definitely a portion that's one of the smaller ones if we wanted to do that. I hear you saying that, is that, okay.
So that does have wetlands. Doesn't show up in that map, but I have it right here.
Right, well, you can see this little thing, and the map she just had, it had a hook in it somehow.
Yeah, that was something, that was a different overlay, different
Okay.
sensitive land.
Was that the green?
What's this
Green is
river, is that a river?
That is wetlands?
The river runs through it? Okay.
I think that, see it up there, it's in the shade.
Oh, what's the shape?
That's for wetlands.
The green?
Yeah.
It's
The green is
wetland.
wetlands.
Yeah.
So they could come through and do some things in here.
A smaller lot?
Maybe, well, whatever, but this is a possibility, we're looking right now, which
Yeah.
ones are outside, and we don't have to write new bylaws about our overlay and yada yada, right? There's some space here that could be used.
Yeah, and even if we can't get 25 total
Right.
out of this, we could take some of this, it would still have to have a restriction on the
Well,
impervious.
yeah, if we took a slice,
But if that,
only 15% might not be a problem for
Right.
them to get where they need to go.
and the good thing about that property as opposed to a lot of these other ones are, it's already residential. We're not losing the potential of a commercial development going in there to put in houses.
Yeah.
It's already for residential, so therefore, it's not affecting the tax base like.
And it
taking
is right next to the Foxborough T.
Right, so you think,
Boy, are we following the letter of the law or what?
Boy, have you guys just done a full circle.
oh no, we're coming to the
I
end,
mean,
I feel it, we're coming right.
Okay, next one is this.
Come out, go back.
Nope.
Are we saying we're going to carve out that side of that parcel with an overlay? And then do a calc on what's outside the wetlands, see how many net acres we would be using for the overlay?
We're saying if we like this parcel, that's something we have to do.
Okay.
We also like the parcel down, you know, where the pit is, right? The first one,
Mhm.
number 2.
Yeah.
On this, on Carol.
You know, I just got
sheet.
confused when I was looking at my chart.
All right, you get that?
No, not really, but
Okay,
I
well,
don't have the wetlands on my chart, so it doesn't. really-
okay,
Go ahead,
so
keep
then
going.
there's this, what's the purple, Rachel?
That-
C1N,
Yep.
C1 North, okay. So this is again taking a commercial and possibly it's running buses. Mr. Guasi said he really didn't like this one. Why don't we just take it out of consideration, because we now have 2 possibilities that are better than this. Wouldn't that make sense? No, but there were a number of people who didn't really like the idea of anything on Route 1.
I did hear the Concom didn't like those sites, that site either, because.
Concom didn't want the solar.
Well, it's out of our hands now because the
Right.
solar thing is approved, and in a year and a half, it's not building.
Okay,
We questioned,
So,
by the way, I don't know if you heard our
can we
planning
go
board
down
meeting
Route
on
1
that.
to the tiny little foot and
We
toe,
questioned,
which are gonna be
stripping
taken out
a
almost immediately?
beautiful
Because
piece of
for all the same reasons,
put up solar, what's better for the environment?
for all the same reasons,
And
neither of these are gonna go.
State
Okay.
says.
Well, wait a minute,
State says don't
No,
do that.
wait a minute.
It's being done.
so as long as we can get.
You're gonna run a bus on Route 1? You weren't gonna
I'll-
up there,
I'll
but you
drive
are
it.
gonna
I'm
here?
I'll drive it. Do we have enough other smaller parcels with my question?
I think we will, but we'll keep going.
Okay.
For now, let's say these are last resort at best. Okay? For all the reasons.
That's a threat,
that
I'm
we
gonna.
didn't want the other one.
Oh, because we have, all right, let's go down a truck, common cloud.
All right, we took off number 8 on your list, so we're not even gonna go
Correct.
look at that, and now we're down to Armitage, et cetera, et cetera.
So we have 25. We could maybe get 8 to 10 up on Route 140, possibly net, right?
Okay, wait, so here's our overlay. So Armitage itself, Mike,
The access road.
Armitage itself is in the overlay. However, and it's in B2.
C2.
So what's the next
Oh, no,
one
you're
down?
right, B2, yep, you're right.
What's the next one down? What's 4?
Yes, you are right.
This is Rose Lane, so there's C2, and then some of it is residential. Now, that whole parcel is how big, is that the parcel we're considering?
So
I don't see- oh,
4
yeah.
is 12 acres.
Upside down, okay. So this is 12 acres, 12.8 acres. Again, I'm just looking at it, I'm guessing over 5 of it is in the residential.
Yeah.
So if you wanted one of the smaller sites in the residential area of this lot, maybe you slice a piece off here to make sure you've got the
As long as
frontage
there's
or the access through Rose Drive. But as a possibility, you can get a lot of you can get 5 acres if you need it there.
Is any part of that, the land you were talking about that is, has some issues on it?
It was a former salvage yard,
Salvage.
so there would be some cleanup involved, but salvage yards are okay.
Okay,
For the
according
state.
to,
Right?
yeah,
Yeah.
and that's really it, because we said the Berry Street property, we were taking off the list.
Right. That's,
And,
Yeah, I guess I heard that, salvage, yes, they are, but we don't know what they don't know what the contaminants are, so
Yeah.
you run that risk. This one does have a contaminant, a 21E, on it. This
Right.
one, you're not considering, but I'm just,
well, right now, we're not,
And that
because
one-
we don't wanna rewrite, we're too lazy to rewrite the zoning laws, which
Mm-hmm.
is fine.
That front one is commercial,
You don't have to
That
use that
has
verbiage
access-
in the minutes.
that has access directly on 1A.
Yeah.
this one here,
Yes.
yes,
The one that's the split zoning
yes,
does not have that direct access to 1A,
Correct.
but it has access on Rose Drive.
yes.
so is it,
Isn't there a restriction about accessing when you have split zoning within a parcel? Or you accessing a less intensive, having to access a less intensive, use through a more intensive? Like you can't make somebody drive to their house through a
Yeah.
commercial zone.
But because I could, I understand, yes, that is correct,
Okay.
but there was a recent, or not recent, a few years ago, in regards to solar, where they were able to access the site through one or the other. And because this is a use that is a protected use now, I could see that decision holding
Oh, okay.
where you could access through that.
And the only reason I brought
But
it
I
up
am
is
not an attorney, maybe
before,
that'll be my
yeah,
next.
before Ledgeview was built,
Yeah,
and that zoning went right through the middle of that parcel, and they were talking about you could build houses up here, but the problem is you can't access them because the only access is through commercially zoned. But then they changed the zoning, so it was a moot point, but I do remember having that discussion many
so let me ask
years ago.
you a question. This is a very small piece of commercial, and if you look at it, the C2 doesn't go out to Route 1, it's, like you said, there's,
Yeah, it's not,
there's lots.
it's not
What if we
directly,
considered this as one of the parcels? It's 12 acres.
that was one of, that was why I was asking you, if that
One
was accessible by Rose Drive,
And it's in
then
our,
it has fronted, or it has access. It's not directly on 1A, so you're not losing a prime commercial development
right,
necessarily, because it doesn't have access to 1A.
and you just pointed to 12. What is, how many acres are 12?
It's been ignored, I put it on my spreadsheet, but I think this is a nice process because it makes this area bigger, and if somebody does it, he's gonna have access from the other parcel.
What is,
How big is it?
4.9 acres.
oh,
4.9.
It's what I labeled.
It doesn't-
Amortized.
No, but
unless
if
somebody
you-
wants to round up, it doesn't meet the
No,
5
but
acre.
no, if you combine it with 4, right?
If you put 4
If
and
you
12
put 4
together,
and
and they're all
4 and
accessible
12
from
together,
Rose Drive.
and 4 is 12.5, and that's 5, you get 17. Doesn't get us everything we need, but it's there. What is,
But smaller lots versus the 25, so you've got 12 acres and 4.9 down in this quadrant.
right,
25 up here, and we've got some amount
up in the
that's
top
net
corner.
up in the top corner.
The other question is, why were you reducing Berry Street? If you're creating a district, why not include Berry Street as part of that district? That allows you to get to 25 acres very quickly.
I'm sorry,
Oh, we can do a part of this lot. But is this considered accessible
It's from Berry Street.
from Berry Street it is?
Right, but
I wouldn't put, that's a pretty thin road.
I don't wanna, I don't wanna
Residential,
dump
that's a
this,
lot.
I don't wanna
If you're
dump
gonna
this
access-
density onto Ferry Street,
How-
Ferry Street's a.
I would just ask, how is this street different than Elysium Street?
right,
How is
exactly.
Berry Street
And I
different than
think-
Elysium?
I
That's
think-
also a,
Well, there's a lot.
I
of
drive,
them.
yeah, I go up this Berry Street a lot. It is a tight
While
area.
While I like the idea of Elysium, for the reasons of the land itself, not necessarily access, I have a feeling that it's gonna get a lot of pushback.
Mhm.
Because of the access and that kind of.
I'll bet you every lot we bring up is gonna have
Oh,
somebody
it's gonna
saying,
be-
well, that's
sure.
my corner of
Of
town,
course,
don't
of
do it
course,
there,
of
don't
course.
do it here.
Yeah,
Which is actually the reason to do, you know, one in each corner of town, basically, kinda, and say, look, you know, this is what.
What T station is
It
this
doesn't
near? Is this area
It's
near?
Oh, it's on 495, which
495.
goes up to whatever you.
Two exits.
495 Forest
Doesn't
Park.
Gatra run a shuttle bus to the outlets?
No, they won't let the outlet, they won't let the GATRA onto their property.
I thought that was the one thing, at one point, somebody said Gatra ran a bus to the outlets and that was our one form of public transportation in the town.
I'm not a fan,
Maybe, yeah.
I see Gatra in town, dropping people off.
you know, my
Well, I
opinion of
think
anything down this way that goes up Route 1A into town, but I think it's worthy of a smaller parcel, I just don't think we should put the 25 down.
No, I wouldn't put the 25, I'm thinking of it as being
Alright, hang on
part
a
of
second, so
the.
what did you wanna add about that?
I want to say something about the Jim Goshen property.
Was that this?
The lower one, right, the one you don't want. Please note, we just approved an ANRAD Conservation Commission for that. There's project plan for both Plainville and Wrentham on that site. So therefore, if we include it into our zoning district, chances are the previous zone continue on its path. And it's nice to have something that's likely not to become an actual built area. So I don't want you to dismiss that as out of hand. And having 25 acres where much of what we use is probably to our advantage.
Well, that's only 13 though, right? One?
Yeah, but that's half your 25.
Oh,
But if you do
you're trying to
this,
combine
this,
all rates?
I would do all four.
if you do this, and this,
Yeah.
you get a lot.
Well, why don't we do this? Why don't we put it on for the board to discuss?
Absolutely.
That this could be a small parcel, or this could be a big.
If you look at my spreadsheet, there are four parcels that are 8, 13, 5, and 13. So 26 is almost 40 acres if you put them, if they're all buildable. We'd have to put in the real spreadsheet to find what that number is, but I would not rule this out of hand.
It feels like this, I don't know how many homes are on the back road there, but
On Berry Street?
yeah, how many, can we just drag the map down a little bit?
That doesn't sound good.
Yeah, I can open up
So
my
it's, you know,
snapper.
2, 4, 6, 8, 10,
Actually,
12, 14,
snap-
well, 15, maybe it's less than 20 homes. I would guess Elysium is very similar.
For a little
when I
bit.
drove
Yeah,
up there,
I would
it's
guess Elysium is
probably in
very
that-
similar as well.
Right, but the thing you have with the Elysium is that you also, that's where the town beach is, that's where the boat
And
landing
then,
is.
yeah, you also have all these ones in Plainville, not that Plainville matters.
But
It does.
I hate to say this, but they already have a commercial traffic issue on Elysium Street, right? They may not like the fact that there's a pit up there that's running trucks all day, but they have it. You know,
To
and
me,
so
the house.
this might curtail that and have, you know, just cars instead. I don't know if it's better or worse, but
The question would be, could you ever build this with a pit operator? That's where my head's at, is I think that's a longer term play. To your point, if we can push something out, right? Space these things out so it doesn't affect the town all at once.
what is this, what's the, is that
There's a
actual ponds, actual
wetlands,
ponds?
apologize,
And
yeah,
there's this wetlands protection, the green or
yeah, yeah,
vernal pools or whatever?
no, they're just wetlands, a
They're all-
wooded marsh and a marsh bog is
Oh,
the legend.
Okay, so, you
So-
know, I mean, and half of this stuff is commercial, I guess we just said this far off of going, hey, it's commercial. You know, at that point down there, some commercial down there, I guess.
So we have two sites that could be 25 or part of, which is, we don't have 25 up north.
Yeah, we do. Well, I think we could,
On Route 1,
yeah,
140,
East Street, up by Route 40, can we go back up there?
To stay out of the district, we were only.
Or if we just take a sliver of it, we can get to 25 acres, I'm betting you.
A lot of wetlands, so.
My suggestion is,
Well, let's
you got 3 corners, pretty much divvy it up between the 3 of them, and each of them have about
56.
17 acres, something like that.
We need 25 on one.
Okay, one of them 25, the other 2 could be.
Split, yes, split the, yeah, no, I'm
I
good
think
with
that's what
that.
we're talking about. So can you run a little gadget? I don't know.
Well, that whole site, I mean, is
The whole site is 69.
69, so half of that is 35, so if you just drew half of that, you get, and then you got a lot of wetlands on that other 35, so.
Yeah,
I'm saying, I'm not, I don't know, we could do the math, if you could get to
Well,
25.
okay, so fair enough, but I mean, you could, I'm guessing if you drew it this way, you know, you get to 35 and then.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll see what that is.
It's okay, it's, how,
Alright, so that's,
Throw this up.
I don't see the acres, number 34 or something,
31.64.
31,
so by the time you get rid of the
Get the
wetlands,
right sidebar,
oh,
very top.
okay, got it, thank you.
by the time you get rid of the wetlands, you're probably sub 25, I would
Okay.
bet, right?
So,
Unless you take a slice off of here, this piece can only be 15%. If they can comply with that and still put their building in. And again, that's fine. If we just have the 2 and this is a third for a smaller
He's got-
piece, I'm good with that.
He's been ready, he's got something, here we go.
if they. My only thing with taking a slice is, we call that our 25 plus contiguous. But we're only taking, you know, a slice of it can only be 15. So they're gonna push back and say, you can't get your full 375 units that would be allowed in it. That makes sense, probably not.
They'll base it on the net, so if the net square footage isn't 25 acres.
Right.
You don't
Okay,
get there.
so if we can get the net 25 after we take out the wetland,
Mhm.
the wetland, we can't do it.
Yeah.
We get a net 25 and some of that is the 15%. We'd be okay?
As I understood it,
Okay,
yeah.
all right, because the only other thing I was gonna suggest is if we can only do 15% impervious on half of that property, that's already going to limit the density on that. Why not just include the whole thing?
Just include the whole thing.
Just include the whole thing, then we don't have to worry about whether we're getting to 25. We know we've got more than that, but part of it is going to be limited as to what they could build. As far as the density of it and.
I like that.
And the impervious.
Point.
Yeah. And maybe
It's
what
not
they
gonna
can,
get us to 50.
no, it won't get us to 50, but we can get to 25
Right.
easily.
We have to
Without
get
having to worry
25
about-
somewhere.
Did we cut enough of a slice off?
Right.
You know, is that, if we just include the whole thing, but half of that's already gonna be very limited as to how dense it can be.
So then let me ask a question, so you're saying on any one of these 3 corners, we can get 25?
Yeah.
Yeah.
On any one of these 3 corners, we can break off parcels that get to the rest.
Yeah.
Now we've met a bunch of our criteria and the guiding principles of corners and. Right. And road work and network and all that kind of stuff, T stations or access to highways.
Yeah.
If you said, okay, we've got these 3, which one would we say is the best 25 acres?
Best from what
That's
perspective?
what.
That's for the larger parcel.
Best to put the 25 acres on versus,
The 25 required acres.
to me, this one is, I look at the pit and I'm saying slam dunk, and I know there's other opinions. This one, I say it's a fully wooded lot, it's beautiful up there, you got wetlands, you've got trees, you got an overlay district, I'm saying, let's not wreck that. I know someday it might get developed as homes,
I was gonna say,
But not-
they could
not-
wipe it all out and put,
but not 15 units an acre. It's, what's the zoning here?
Or 43.
It's 1 acre lots. It's going to be in context with what's happening in the rest of that part of town. And I don't live up there, but I live near enough to it that I go by it every day. If I saw 15 units an acre up in that area, I would cry.
I'm not really guided by this as much as maybe I even should be, but if you recall, there was a night, I'm sorry, a month of nights.
A month of
Two nights, where somebody wanted to put a single 3-family unit right there, and
I was
these
against it.
people were up in
And
arms.
I was the only one who voted against it.
Yes, you were.
Because
Very
single family
politic.
zoning, and I know there's
You
duplexes
got friends up there or
and all
what?
that, I don't know. No, I love, by the way, I love the one they built down. That's,
Yeah, I mean, you know,
I just think
I
that
don't
there's
think
a-
it ruined the neighborhood, that's why I voted for it. They were like, it's gonna ruin our neighborhood, I don't think so.
Oh,
I think
yes.
the neighborhood's ruined by the whole development, whether you get a 3-family there on 2 lots or not. But anyway,
so
So-
I like this as an option for one of the smaller parcels
Sure.
outside the watershed.
sure,
Cause I think the other two. I put the pit first, I put Route 1, a south second, and I put this, for me, a distant third. And I don't know, just to kind of, how do we present this to the board? We've got 3 different quadrants we get 25 acres on, and the rest of it, those 3 parcels will be some version of the rest of the 25. So where do we actually recommend putting the 25?
I don't disagree, but let me play devil's advocate on this one. The benefit of this one, you know, I think the pit is growing on me as a location, just for the reasons I've already said, but the thing about this one is, if you've got traffic going to the T, it goes through the least amount of our town.
No,
Okay.
That's one of our
And
principles.
we had said on our principles that Route 140 handles traffic pretty well. And that's where it is.
141, all
Right.
Yep.
Route 140. and
The-
access-
I can't argue that point.
Right.
It's a minute
Now-
to Route 1 South, it's 2.5 minutes to Route 1 North.
Right,
You can
1A,
Go around.
1A, you don't like it coming up into town. I believe, you know, the majority of the real problem traffic goes to 495 and dissipates, and then people come up 1A who need to come into town. If they live in town, they get to come into town.
Yeah.
So I don't have a problem with that. That's that. And in terms of Franklin Street, you know, the thing about Franklin Street is, to me, it's a real, I think there's more likelihood of town traffic from Franklin Street than the others. I mean, yes, the
Possible,
T
yeah.
station itself is in Franklin.
Yep.
And to get to say, there's no parking at that T station, to say,
God, yeah.
per se, right?
There's a-
So, you know, if
Fills
people
up
want,
at
if
8
people
o'clock.
wanna ride their bikes, that's probably the best. Cause nobody's riding their bike up Route 1, and nobody's riding their bike around 495 to get to Forge Park.
Yeah.
Right, so that's from the standpoint of like, you know, if you got a bunch of green people who don't have cars and live in this thing and wanna get to the T and they ride their bikes, beautiful. But everyone else has to go down Franklin Street to King Street, out to Forge Park. Right, or all the way through Franklin, which I would never do, to get to Forge Park. That's where they're all gonna go get the T, if we really think that these people are gonna go to the T, whoever moves into these places. And-
Or the Patriot Place has all of that parking.
Right,
It's
no
crazy
question.
how much parking.
So-
Would it be better to go to North, if somebody was here, they might go to Norfolk to the T, because you get the parking.
I forgot all about the fact that there's a Norfolk T.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then they're going up Park Street, which is so wonderful. That
Yeah, they. don't
that
go
gives
back to
you,
Park
that
Street.
gives you a lot of traffic on 140 up to Park Street, and then a lot of left-hand turners into Park Street.
I don't think, I know it's the MBTA communities, I don't think realistically for an adjacent community.
You don't have to, yeah.
You don't have.
I don't think consideration to the T, I think more of a consideration from that location is 2 minutes down the road, you've got 2 grocery stores,
Mhm.
you've got, you know, a lot of
communities type stuff.
Yeah, you know, you 2 minutes, 2 minutes up 140 into Franklin, and you've got everything that these people are gonna need. they're not gonna necessarily have to travel. down
I shop at
into-
East Franklin Street, East Central Street, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
And so,
And
you
I
know,
would
as
never
far
say-
as far as generating traffic in towards Wrentham Center, I think you're gonna get less of it in that spot
To go over there.
because they're gonna head into Franklin. I shot in Franklin.
I would argue for East Street in terms of you're more likely to not get pushback from the state. Because if we use the gravel pit, we're putting ourselves in a test situation where we could well get kicked.
By the way, if we put it in there, we're not in violation if we're working through and they don't like it and it takes time, we're not in violation.
That they should
So
say
that was one of the other things.
That's
Awesome.
Sorry about that, I forgot to mention that.
Oh, that's big.
As long as we get through town meeting,
The non-compliance thing, if we've
But
done it.
their review, you're not penalized, you're still in compliance as
if
throughout
it's,
their review process,
Nice.
as long as it got through town
That's
meeting,
great.
yeah.
and
That's
we
huge.
submitted it by the end of the year, then you start working on, so I think we can, you know.
So I bigger job.
I gotta say, score
What
one
would
for
be
Mike
approved by
McKnight,
town meeting?
who suggested that that was probably how it's gonna go. So I acknowledge your,
Yeah, I heard that was.
That's very important.
Yeah. Thanks for
Okay.
burying the lead.
Hold on, it's on my sheet someplace.
It's all right, that's
That
good.
does make a difference, because I was
Yeah.
wondering that too, is if we do this
Yes,
and
And
we
get it
and
through
we submit it, we get it through and they kick back, have we still, at least in the eyes of the state authorities, done what we need to keep the
And the answer
process
is
going
yes.
without getting penalized?
Right, I'm not up for being penalized because we were too clever by half. And we're not gonna be under this
Okay.
regime, which is great. And I'm not the most observant person on the planet. However, I go to that beach frequently and I've seen those trucks and it never occurred to me that there was a massive gravel pit up on the end of Elysium Street. I never knew that. You know?
Never asked. I wonder where all
Well,
those trucks are
actually,
coming from.
I haven't been
Well, the
on
Russo's
this
all over the
board
place,
long
so it's
enough,
like-
to- yeah, it's-
another Woodruff Blue.
that's it. There's a truck full of gravel, okay, you know,
Used to drive Jeeps through there when I was.
and not the most observant
I-
man on the planet. But I
Yeah.
mean, you know, if we put that there, that 25 acres there, there's a lot to recommend it, and there's a lot we don't have to deal with.
And it might take time to put it in.
And it might take time to put it in, and they might, you know, choose whether or not they wanna put it in, maybe they like the idea, whatever.
And since we, and I'll say hi,
That we have had some people, several people come in to wanna, change the zoning on that, so. In the past, you've had a couple of informal meetings on that, too.
To what? Anything specific, the same every time, or different things?
Was residential, I forget, whatever the one
Okay.
closest to, one of the last ones is the senior living community.
Is that what Elysium Street now?
No, I was talking about this Franklin Street, that's the one I thought we were still on.
Oh,
No, we're
not
down
that
on number one, down
one.
there,
There it is.
right there.
There, a part,
back to the pit.
a 25 acres. I'll just make a comment up on the East Street one for 1 second. I like the idea of adding to our guiding principles, try to stay out of water resources. Doesn't mean we have to. And we, and I'll say I specifically, have probably driven Rachel crazy on bringing this back up and having all these sites reviewed beyond the ones that she brought. If we make it easy on her and not go into a resource area to have to write a bylaw that contemplates the 15% versus something else, it feels to me with the time we have left that would be a good strategy versus saying the 25 acres up on East Street and we've got to deal with this bylaw writing that's gonna get creative. It may not be in our best interest.
I agree, I
So-
think, you know, keep
But I
what-
like it
Keep it
outside the
simple,
resource
too.
area on East Street.
Yeah,
If they could put some of the housing here, they could make that extra special exclusive. Look, you've got an overview of Franklin Country
Make
Club,
a
right?
fortune. You have a water view or a golf course view, it's,
There you go.
there's an extra
Look
100.
at those,
So,
look at those houses.
Rachel,
that go-
can you do your
on top
magic
of
just
each
in a
other.
simple, like,
What's 25
and
acres
just
in
see
that?
what, how much acreage that, above this purple line and not including that water resource, just give us an idea.
Okay. so
How much is
here-
how much? No, just go straight across. Yeah,
Yes.
thank you. And go straight
Well,
across.
it's 230 acres, so it's. gonna
Right,
be,
so it's gotta be plenty there, and then straight
Well,
across.
you know what, I'll bet if you did 25 acres, it's gonna be a little corner on that piece of property.
Yeah, that's what they're saying.
There we go.
You got too many numbers up there. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
So
that took
now,
out a
I
big
mean,
spot.
So get rid of that, and now just take off of a list.
You know, and we're only talking.
I'll bet if you just cut that little quadrant that's off of a listing street, no, right there, that little, yeah, cut that.
Right to
here?
here?
Yeah, and then up the
Okay.
street and then over.
5.
Oh, 25, okay. I was hoping, but,
How much did you think that was gonna be?
so you could come across there, across the edge of the pit, yeah, like that. And then come,
Like across here?
well, I was going all the way out to the country club, but yeah, something.
That's,
yeah,
so
cause
what
they,
is
so they
that?
could have.
That's 51.
You only
So
need
tweak
25.
that one way or another on 51.
Alright, now go up. Up, then, yeah. Now around to the other side of the, yeah. On
Close
the,
enough, yeah.
and then draw a line so you don't get into the pit. There you go, right there, perfect.
43.
So that's more than,
And again, you could add this little thing, that would give you the difference if you wanted 50.
if you wanted all 50 here,
Right.
you could put them all 50 here, but.
That's the point.
So if you did a large one here and a small one on each street, you did 2 residential zones, and you have 2 spots, it's easy to go ahead and explain to me.
And then what do? You put another small one down on one.
No, you don't.
You don't, you just leave them up by the 2 T stations.
30 here and 20 there with wetlands,
Yeah.
you know, no
Yeah.
problem, or whatever up at East Street,
You might have just,
and you're done.
And two zones, two areas is
Zone
a
residential,
lot less work to run through all the modeling and all
I
that
like it.
stuff.
I like it. And we'll try to stay outside the resource area, the water resource area up
Yeah.
above.
And then we don't even have to worry.
or we just add that to our, I'm assuming that the guidelines are for the presentation to the town, right? So we'll add that to the guidelines, we tried to stay out of the water resource, you know, whatever area, right?
Yeah.
And you know, when it came down to it, you could say, we wound up with these 3 likely options, or these 4 like, I don't know if there's a 4th, I don't know.
Well, in the presentation, we probably say we started out with.
And
these,
then we, you know, we looked at it, and
Narrowed it down because of, yeah.
in terms of impact to the town, we thought the
Right, I
most
think-
minimal would be these 2 places,
I
and
wouldn't get into a ton of detail on why we eliminated spots, because then you're gonna get somebody saying, well, but why would
We could just say we looked at.
right now?
But by the way, tonight's progress is because you were meeting at 2 o'clock today. Because you found out 2 things. If we get something passed by town meeting, we stay in compliance while the review
Right.
process goes on. And 2, you can cut a zoning district with these overlays. Those are 2
Well, a lot,
significant points.
A lot, yeah,
Yes.
yeah. Besides bearing the headline, I appreciate that. I didn't write it down.
yeah,
That's
that's why we have more than 1 person at these meetings. So, yeah, so I mean,
I like that strategy.
if we figure 30, now,
So
do you
50,
wanna lead them out to the golf club and let them have a golf club view out there? I don't care, but, you know,
It's up to
I
the
don't, I'm
building
not a
authority.
member of that golf club, I don't care.
Well, that 30 acres is, part of it's in the pit, and maybe we don't wanna go.
No, that's 50.
Jim, that's easy to put on the town line because that's easy to define it when you define the zoning overlay.
Yeah.
That line's already been established.
Oh, God.
Otherwise, you gotta create these other lines.
Oh, you gotta
Yeah,
actually
just
create.
stay right on
Okay.
the line.
Yeah, whatever you
Yeah,
can do
part of-
here, whether it's
part of-
net,
Now, is the line
25,
already
30.
established, is that purple line already established for the overlay?
The
For the water
aquifer
resource?
I can cut it, I'm gonna have to create a new parcel in GIS
Yeah.
just for this
I got
overlay.
that.
And yes, I can
But
cut
the
that out.
purple line is already,
That is,
identified,
that
right?
is a Mass DEP.
yeah,
line.
so that's
Just go right
there.
around
no wetlands in this quadrant, do you think?
Oh.
Uh-oh, hold on. Come on, no? Say no.
No. So, we're talking like,
Yes, come around that, yeah.
so we're talking, you know, come around, ooh, can you shrink that a tad? So before you even start doing it, right? We take all this, we go around here, we take the town line, we come somewhere down here, probably only maybe this far, and cut back to this.
Or down to the corner of that property, makes it easier.
You're saying
Right
here,
there.
and then cut
Yeah.
so that we're not over the. But I mean, you know, it can go to here, it doesn't have to include any of this, right? And that keeps it further away from Lake Pearl, we can promote that as a bonus as well.
By the way, when the pit fills with water and you got the golf course on the other side, those are gonna be $1 million
Yeah, now you're gonna have water, sure.
water rights, get some boats going in.
So that's a line we can make and draw relative, but I mean, if it's some kind of straight shot from here to here or something, you've already got bounds for a lot of it. Yes?
Yep.
So we just have to create this line maybe, and that's doable, yes.
Okay.
Good.
So that can be more than 25 acres, if it's 30 acres or something, we let that happen.
If it's 30, then we only do 20, if it's
And that'll-
32, we only do 18.
Take the pressure off
And the other
of Bunny Street.
Right.
So you want this one to be a 25 to 30 acre piece,
It can be, yeah,
anywhere from there,
Yeah.
25 to 30
Yeah.
acres.
can you draw your little thing doing what
I would say it this way,
you just said?
I would find out what does the model tell us you have on East Street and make sure this one brings it up to 50.
There you go.
Gotcha,
I mean, you
okay.
start
That's a
with
good
East
place.
Street first.
All
Because you
right.
got a lot on
If you're
East
gonna
Street,
start-
you
If
got
you're gonna start
wetlands,
making sense
overlay.
like that, we're gonna have to have you in more of these meetings. Oh.
No, it's been helpful.
Yeah.
And the East Street is 25 acres?
No,
No,
Fifty.
whatever you can get out, well, find out what's available, because there are restrictions.
In the
with
residence,
wetlands
yeah.
And so forth.
Yeah, without going into the wetland or the aquifer protection, what's
it's now.
available, what's left from
Okay.
that. And make this,
Be the rest of the
the
50.
rest of it to add the 50, add up to 50, exactly.
If you wanna keep East Street away from 50%.
Here's my question.
I like it.
Is there any reason, right, if we're probably gonna be over on acreage, right? And there's a lot of land here, that's going to 30 acres or whatever, why not let her just include this little, cause it can only be built at 15, but they don't need that in order to get what they need to get in this land, right?
I think, and if
You don't have to rewrite the bylaws if we do that.
I suspect you have a problem, because you have to create the provision for that 50% portion.
Writing that bylaw.
It's in our bylaw current,
I think
That's
we're
a special
best off staying
staying out of it.
staying out of the
Okay.
aquifer protection.
All right, just a thought.
Just because
Brain damage
Just
and
a thought.
understanding how to
it
write that
makes it
bylaw.
much less
But I don't think we
complicated.
have to write any bylaw, we're just
Right,
adding.
I see where you're coming from, because it would be over whatever that is,
It's
so
such
that
a-
portion wouldn't even matter.
It's such
I
a
understand
small
what you're
section of
saying.
the land we're setting aside.
Yeah,
And on that section, you can only build 15% impervious.
Oh, I see.
and a lot
I
of
mean,
it
if
is,
there's no other problem.
there's some water as well right here, so you're right, a lot of this is gonna probably be excluded anyway, so. And we had plenty enough, even with that rudiment, you know, that really rough plan. Okay, I can,
Does it need to build that?
thankfully, I don't think that applies with overlay zones,
I just-
yeah.
Well, this is
Wow.
promising, right?
Yeah,
I think we've got a plan.
We have a plan.
yes.
Now, can we market?
Cause I'm relinquishing control again, even though I took some of that with some of the work I did, so Rachel and you guys have it. Rachel, you have
Nope,
it.
I do not have it. You guys, it's all you guys.
Okay,
Well,
so
you
what,
have to be our technical expert on getting this
all right,
nailed
so
down.
as a consultant,
Yes.
what work do we need to do now to get from here to an article in the warrant that we want?
The bylaw, I've sent you some
Okay, we have that
examples of the
draft
of the
bylaw in our packet here, and you sent it to us today, I read a
Yeah, I
bunch of
didn't,
that.
yeah, I didn't put them in
And
here.
if we use
Okay.
the underlying zoning, that, we could start there and then
Start
look at it and
there.
go, well, does that make sense or doesn't it?
Yeah,
I
Now-
mean, it might,
yeah,
we're in residential districts, so.
As I reviewed that bylaw, which I believe was the draft you had written when you had done the other work, right?
yeah,
There was a bunch of stuff that was redlined because it pertained to the specific lots that you were dealing with and or the multi-use factor, which we're not getting into right now, correct? So is the rest of that, I don't wanna say it's boilerplate, cause I know you did work to write it.
Yeah.
But is the rest of that applicable to this? I mean, does it need a lot of tweaking?
No,
Okay, so if we review through that and it's possible that that's a mainly already written thing, that we don't have to change a whole lot, and we approve that, is that something, now, okay, so
And we
the
have-
bylaw,
yes.
and then what?
And then I will, while you guys are looking at that and reviewing that, I will run these, what you just said, through that compliance model to make sure that it checks, it, says pass, go.
And so we need an article in the warrant
Yes,
before the article for these lots that passes that bylaw. Right, so it has to be Article 1 if this is Article 2, or it could be Article 15
Oh,
if this is
okay, I
Article
got what
16,
you're
right?
saying. Yeah,
Because
so,
they said,
that's
make sure you
something-
pass that law before you,
right, yeah,
Right?
it's something, when we get to that point, I would definitely wanna bring town council involved
Yeah.
Right,
onto
right.
the timing of it, because, yeah,
Beautiful.
that's a great point.
so that, yeah, because as I read through those things, I saw that in a lot, it was a boilerplate comment that they were kicking out on a lot of them.
Yeah,
What bylaw have we?
It was a,
Changed.
well, we're
That we
not
have to
changing
do.
it, we have to write a bylaw for our laws for this MBTA thing.
Oh.
And Rachel's
Overlay
basically
zone.
written it, she sent it
So
to
we
us today.
have, okay, so we have to, you're going through your sequence on town meeting floor. So we have to have an article to accept the bylaw and then a separate article to
And then the map.
accept the map.
yeah.
We can't put them both in the same article, we wouldn't want to.
You might be
You might
able to,
so
yeah,
they go together.
I would ask town council though, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, is that the process, or is there more to it?
And then once it gets submitted it passes town meeting, then we submit to the state.
Right, but from the
Then they-
standpoint of the work the
but yeah.
planning board has to do, we have to bring
Yeah,
these recommendations to the
Mhm.
planning board in our, one of the next couple meetings.
Yep.
And then we have to agree and vote. And then we have to also bring that bylaw, which was sent to us today, or yesterday, whatever, that we have to, vote in. And we have to make sure the planning board understands that and agree and vote.
Yep.
And once we've done that and we say, these are the things we want to put in the article in order to satisfy this MBTA zoning thing,
Mhm.
the planning board's work is done.
I would ask that you do networking. I was originally
Okay.
intending, once you guys, back in February, to do sort of like a tour to
Yeah.
all of the boards and
Okay,
committees.
got it.
And we're,
To sort of present this.
Okay.
I don't have that time to sort of.
That's
meet-
fine.
we'll create,
So,
we have
so
a,
explain ourselves to the
Yes.
greater community.
Right, however you do
That's the
that.
way to do that.
we can do
Yeah.
some roadshows. Our first one is gonna be
Networking.
with the Board of Selectmen,
Mhm.
with us.
Yeah.
Okay, so we got the date.
17.
Yeah, the 17th, the subcommittee is
Nine
meeting.
seven, so we have I could resend this is the
No,
agenda.
you sent it today, I saw it.
No, it's scheduled.
I thought it was there. Anyway. that's
Anyway,
fine.
so yeah, 9/17 is our subcommittee, 9/18, we have a planning board meeting. The idea would be no later than 10/16 to vote recommendation to the town, because the warrant closes on the 29th.
Mhm.
Is that?
Yeah.
Now, if we can do it before that, that's great.
Yeah,
We'll have met with the Board of Selectmen, and then maybe we could talk about whether or not we do some meetings. Outreach.
So it seems to me, if we meet with the Board of Selectmen and we don't have some massive problem there,
Yeah, I don't,
which we probably won't, then the next night, we can present this to the planning board and get it voted on
yeah, we could be as early as the 18th.
18th, right? That's what I'd like. to
Three
do.
meetings.
Are you running that meeting or are you out of town?
I'll be around the 18th.
Right,
Three
so,
meetings to get this done at the planning board. After, we got the 18th, the 2nd, and the 16th.
right, so if we are ready with our recommendations to the planning board about this on the night of the 18th, which we will have to be in order to explain ourselves to the select board on the 17th. Right, so I think then we're like, okay, great, and the 17th is like the the go, no go decision, basically, right? If the select board seems like the thinking makes sense.
Yeah.
And the planning board approves it, now we can take those two things to our roadshow, whoever else wants to know.
And I would qualify one thing, I think, no matter what we do, if the planning board is aligned, this is what we wanna bring forward, whether Board of Selectmen says, don't like it.
Yeah, I understand.
We've done so much work on this thing,
Right.
this is what we wanna
Right,
present.
this is
We
our
present.
proposal.
We present what we're gonna present, and if they wanna get up and object to it, then they get up and object.
Exactly.
The 17th isn't informed. Right. And this is what we're moving.
Yeah,
forward
I think
with.
that's true. Ideally, they'll
Be
say,
nice.
good work, and thanks for,
Yep.
really, giving your best to it. Ideally,
You're smiling, Rachel.
and otherwise they'll say, you what? And we'll say, yep, that's what we did.
Yes.
Thanks for noticing.
You know, the select board just say, they do diligence, this is the best plan that came on the planning board because of our efforts.
And
you go.
if there are
Anybody wants to take credit, take credit.
If
Yeah,
there are
exactly.
questions, we say, thank you very much for your opinion, we'll take it under advisement.
So here's the little bit of a challenge. Well, I don't leave until Tuesday afternoon, next Tuesday afternoon. I don't know what I'm gonna need from you if I'm gonna be putting it together for the Board of Selectmen, if you're not. But this site and that site, and markings and the information, so if Tuesday comes and
When
you're
are
still
you-
working.
Yeah, how long are you out, I guess?
2 weeks,
2 weeks, okay,
no internet,
gotcha.
gone,
Oh,
Fishing.
all right, okay.
We're gonna be,
6 hours difference, I'm in your,
Oh, yeah, okay.
so.
excellent.
But that doesn't mean, I think we've got enough information, and you've pulled these decks together, we got all the information, so,
Mhm.
as long as we can get this nailed and East Street site nailed,
Calculated.
I think we got the guiding principles, we'll update that stuff. We can throw the schedule into this thing, just to make sure the planning board is aware of it for the 4th next week, and it's like, it's fine for this.
Next planning board meeting before. Yes, because I'm gonna be running. Thanks, Mike.
I think you got,
What am I, so basically just presenting this?
Yeah,
how we got from
See,
where we were.
see, we still have to put together all the right, paperwork and ideas and everything else, but we feel like we have a plan, we're on track, and
This is where we're at.
this is what's
Go
making
down-
sense.
Go around the board, see if any of them have any opinions.
Right. If Rachel has the maps
I
that she's
can-
drawn up on East Street, net acres, and this one, net acres, that would be good, but
Yeah,
if not, it's talking
It's
points.
still it's still a concept that they can understand.
do you have any time, I can, send you what I have, we can meet, as well, to go over the presentation.
Hmm.
Like I said, a lot of this stuff is already existing, just in
Yeah.
different,
I mean,
PowerPoints.
are you okay with meeting on the 3rd? That's your normal,
Yeah.
you're there later anyway, right?
Yeah.
I'll come up and see you.
Yeah.
I know how much you like visitors.
I do enjoy it.
I think we've actually simplified
Yeah.
this thing quite
Um,
dramatically.
Yeah,
oh, is that the primary?
There's a primary.
Okay,
Well, again, information.
all
we
right,
got
so
today,
if you wanna plan on it, do you think that would be
Yeah, I think that's
sufficient? I'll
great.
meet you then on the 3rd, after work, I'll come up,
Answer the question.
Yeah.
we'll
We'll
powwow.
go over the presentation.
Good, because I was gonna ask you if you're gonna be around to talk that night, because I
Yeah.
always like to meet with you before, I get to chair a meeting. Just to make sure that I've got all my ducks in a row.
Yeah.
As much as I can.
Bring our conversation
Uh,
out to
right.
So, yeah, all right, well, we'll plan on that.
Okay,
I'll
perfect.
see you on the 3rd as soon as I can get there. If I can knock out of work a little early, so much better. I have no idea what we'll be at that point. It's the day after a long weekend,
Oh,
which
yeah.
in pharmacy world can be either very quiet or, and we've got colleagues that are going back to pharmacy school for the year, so I don't know what we get first now, but if I can blow out a little bit early, I can, but it certainly should be able to be there by 6. And
Okay,
we can meet then, if that's okay with you.
Subcommittee.
Nice work. I think we,
Thank you for your,
yeah,
input, it's been very valuable.
I think we're back to something we can Feel good. I'm not gonna call it simple, but it's,
Feel good about it.
it seems like we've eliminated a lot of complexity.
Simpler than having a whole bunch of small lots.
Yes.
And it's all Route 1, it's all on the commercial, it's places that, are off the edges. There could be people objecting to East, we know that, but that's okay, there's gonna be objection no matter where you put it.
And that's what I was thinking, no matter where you put it, some group is gonna say, not in my backyard.
One of the things is that, you know, we take into consideration as far as the guidelines from the state is underutilized lands, right? So, you know, we're not taking stuff that's already built upon and saying, yeah, that's where we're gonna put it. You know, we're looking at land that could potentially, you know.
One I like, I know you said the T, they're not really gonna use it, maybe, I love having close to the T, because MBTA is in the bylaw.
Right.
I just, that to me is like, you put it where you said you wanted MBTA to be in this, you got MBTA, we're closest to the MBTA.
However, they also realize each town has its unique situation, so that's.
Mhm.
Okay.
Great work, great work, I don't think we need a subcommittee meeting again unless you guys want it, well, you have to.
Well, what do
Just
you
bring
wanna
in-
do about the bylaw? Because that, we could do that in, you know, in planning board thing. Again, you know, are there things, given what we're contemplating, are there things needing to be added? I mean, I know you redlined the things that
Mhm.
were on the mixed use and that were on the specific Wrentham corner lot.
Yeah,
Is redlining that, does that do it, or are there things that need to be added based upon? I mean, I'm not asking you to give me a definitive
Yeah.
answer, but are you thinking of anything that needs to be added that we need to consider, or can we consider what's not lined out of what you sent us?
it would just be the dimensional, you know, the underlying, because I've used the underlying zoning, dimensional requirements. That would be the only thing that I think I would have to change on those.
So if the three of us could just read through that and make sure that we don't have any questions or discussion points on those, on that, then she sent it to her
Already
today or
sent.
yesterday, I don't know which.
R87 for this, R43 for the other?
Yes.
Yeah. And, you know, then if we don't have any changes or any concerns, then that's pretty much done. And so we don't need another subcommittee meeting to hash that out.
Right.
That was the question. Do we need another subcommittee meeting? In my opinion, we don't.
No,
We could hold the time open
Yeah.
in case something comes up with the anticipation that it would be canceled.
Yeah.
You know, likely, right?
I would make one point on the gravel movement. Don't use setback for R87, because they're excessive. You want to have as much area available for building, so you
Okay.
gotta cut
Do we?
those down.
Do we?
R87 is big setback.
I know, but
And
do
frontage.
we want most area for buildable?
Only
I look
if,
at-
only if it affects your unit capacity, that would be my only concern, you know?
But I don't think the state could deny it based on the underlying zoning setbacks.
No, but
They
in my
can make
direction
put
that you
more
guys
land there so
gave
you can
me,
Get to the unit numbers.
It's
But the
big-
direction
it's
that you-
together.
the direction that you guys gave me was to use the underlying zoning for the overlay.
Right,
So I would intend to use the R87 for this overlay over Elysium. If you want me to use it.
I don't, I
diff-
want you to stay with that. What I'm
Okay.
saying is leave the bigger setbacks. Let's lower, I don't think we're gonna get judged in the initial view of this on the fact that we did this and we can't get as many as 15 units an acre because of the setbacks. We're not gonna get 15 units an acre because of the sewer system, the sanitation system.
But
those are,
Don't count that.
But I
yeah,
don't think the
That's
setbacks,
excluded from consideration.
are the setbacks excluded from
if
consideration?
they affect your,
If
because
they
you have to have 58, there's 3 parts, 50 acres, 15 units per acre, average, whatever the districts are, and the capacity to create 750 units. That doesn't ever have to happen, and that's what running it through the compliance model
Okay,
will be able to tell us. I'll
let's
put
leave
in all that.
it as the zoning underline if you run into a problem, because we're gonna have more than 25 acres.
Yeah.
Maybe we're gonna end up with 35 or
And
something.
the other
Right.
thing is, all 750 don't have to go here, just the 15 times the 30, right? So 450
Whatever,
of the
whatever
units
the
go
offset
here,
of
and
East
the
Street
other
is to this
300
one.
go over there, if whatever
We
it
can
is.
adjust them if we don't get there. We can say, okay, let's
Yes.
stretch it.
Yeah,
Okay,
and how would we do that? Would we turn that into our,
Still R87,
43.
but your overlay zoning
Right.
would be setbacks that are less than
Oh.
87.
Okay,
That would be the bylaw.
so that would be in the bylaw that we passed.
Correct.
In that thing, setbacks and such and such.
Yes.
Which would be,
And if
which
they-
would override the underlying zoning. And by right, they could build to that.
Yes,
If they,
Okay,
if they,
I understand
and
that.
then if they choose
Okay.
not to do that, the overlay, the MBTA overlay,
Mhm.
then it reverts to the underlying zoning and they have to see our 87 setbacks. right?
correct.
And just because we make these overlay districts doesn't mean that they have, whatever gets built there has to be part of the overlay. They can choose, the property owners can choose
Right,
to
right.
say, well, no, I don't wanna build that there, I wanna
Right.
build single family homes
Right.
on 2-acre lots and
And if they
but
do
we've
that,
done our part and we've said, okay, well, you can if you want, and we go, no, that's okay, and then we go, okay.
Make it easy on you, so that we don't change the dimensional requirements right
Yeah.
now, let's see if we have to.
Yeah, I would stick with the
yeah,
underlying unless.
there's a
unless
small
we-
tweak
unless
later if we have to do it, right?
Yeah, as a
We're not
backup,
gonna be out of compliance if
My-
we're not doing it, so
Can't
let's
do
go
it,
for
we
it.
gotta push them.
yeah, my thought
Forgiveness, not
was,
permission, right?
so it's not arbitrary, would be to revert to whatever we're using for the East Street one. So that way they're at least the same.
Yep.
Which is the
Okay.
R43.
Fair enough,
Right, so, yeah, so.
If we have
can't- Right, if we can't do it,
Correct,
we got our
that's,
87.
yeah, I'm just
Got it.
I'm informing you guys of my thought process, so
Yeah.
it's not
And I
a,
think, right, that was, that would
Surprise.
have been what I would have gone with,
Okay.
if the R87 doesn't work, go with the R43. It's still a residential.
Yeah, it protects the
It's still.
Is there anything
part of our-
between those two? Is there like an R61.5 or something?
No.
Okay.
So our 30, our
Acre and a
30,
half
our
zoning,
43,
is
our
like 1
87.
acre or 2 acres, right?
Or 30.
Right, 30, right.
30, which is 2/3. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
mostly around the
30,000
center
square
of
feet.
town. Couple little areas. around,
Correct.
Like. I think-
Or grandfather around the ponds.
yes, just up until that, and
Yeah,
then
yeah,
from
just, right, yeah.
Plainville, it's,
Yeah, right, yeah.
Plainville is
Yeah.
43.
Well, I was before.
All right.
Good.
Anything else,
I'm good.
Rachel, we should talk about?
Do we need to accept meeting minutes? Motion to accept the meeting minutes of August 13th, 2024, subject to typos.
Motion in a second, all right. Roll call vote, Mr. Lawrence. Aye. Mr. Woodhams.
Aye.
I should say aye, 3 in favor, no one opposed, motion carries. Any other business before the subcommittee?
Motion to adjourn.
I second that.
I second.
Motion and a second
Those in
discussion.
favor?
Roll call, Mr.
Aye.
Lawrence.
Why do you have to do a roll call vote?